Are you ready for a good round?
We ready. Maybe that's too hard to clap in the harsh mic like that.
Probably don't clap, but that's okay. You will
We
start.
ready.
I did request more space for us back here so we could dance, but, maybe we'll get that upgrade next time.
Yeah.
Great game coming up here. Anthony again on stream. We don't normally do back-to-backs, but Jamaica's been out there just smashing people with Bravo, so we thought it'd be cool to bring this on the stream right now.
So true. Can Jamaica stop Anthony's show today? He's 3-0. Don't worry about it. That'll get. What are these sleeves? Did you guys talk about this last time already? We got custom sleeves on both sides.
We haven't had Jamaica on stream yet. I think it's something from the world premiere Tales of Aria event. Got some friends holding each other up with probably a trophy of some sort, but
dude, shout out to friends. That's something that really makes Flesh and Blood fun, is having a community of people that you didn't have before the pandemic, I guess some of these people know each other from before.
Yeah, probably. I didn't know anybody. My number of people I know increased exponentially when I started playing Flesh and Blood.
Wow.
Okay, so Anthony out there talking trash to the commentator team, mostly Blake, but I'll take it as an offensive move against me as well. But you know what? It's all in good fun. Anthony told me to remind you, Blake, that he is a wizard. He's still a wizard.
I'm just shaking my head. I know you can't see the camera on me.
We can feel you shaking.
I've rolled my eyes. Let's do some. I don't know if that worked. I'm just so excited to see an Iyslander play for the first time on stream. Even though they've won twice already, I think. Had a brief dash intermission. Everyone...
75% of the stream today has featured Iyslander.
But we're not counting. It is fun. I talked to somebody earlier. They were like, I know all my matchups. I just can't beat Iyslander. And I was like, well, there's only 10 of them here, so that should work out.
Maybe you'll dodge all of them?
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Look, you can't beat them all the time, and as we've talked about previously, people out here like to play the decks that they like to play. So,
do we know the archetype that Jamaica's doing at Bravo? Is it aggro to the max, or is it?
It seems pretty aggressive. I watched him dumpster an Iyslander player in round 2. I believe at one point he was like 29 to 10 or something in health. So it was pretty rough. So we'll see. I'm not sure if it's like super aggressive, but I imagine it has to be to get around Icelander's disruption. But let's jump in. I don't know if they're waiting for us, but they seem like they're just hanging around. Here we go. Did we do a dice roll? I don't know. We'll see. Of course, Anthony rocking the Alexander Vor sleeves over there. Shout out to Alex, who is just a great Kano player out of Arizona, though we tend to include him in the SoCal regional meta consideration. Jamaica, I'm unfamiliar with, but like I said, I saw him doing really well, so I'm excited that he is now 3-0 and will be coming in here pretty hot with his Marvel Bravo, which, you just got to love that.
0 yellows in this Bravo deck. Sounds pretty standard.
Really?
That's the kind of insight you get from AGE deck registration list. Kind of looks like a normal list over here. There's no buckle.
Got 3 pummels, some unmovable. Oh, 6 pummels. Nice. That's what we like to see. Terra Sunder, some unmovables.
I think maybe we'll see the kind of thought process of, can I Showtime into a really powerful attack? Turn 1, that's been a new Bravo tech.
Yeah, erase face, zealous belting. Is he doing out muscle? No, pulverize. So yeah, nothing too crazy on the Bravo side, but if you know how to pilot your deck, you're going to be pretty good right now. It doesn't really matter if you have a plan into the best decks and you can pilot your deck well, you're going to be able to squeak out against most of the players. But Anthony is not most players. He is an exceptional player. Starting off, just gaining life immediately and stripping one of the 6 pummels from his hand. So loves to see that right away from Anthony, and just Arsenal pass.
Iyslander on 37 life, and we got The $400 card that has to go in your deck if you want to win this game. Flesh and Blood is expensive now, guys, right?
Yeah, it just got expensive. No, that's not. I think there's a bit of a fire sale going on right now from what I could tell. People are trying to sell me everything they got. And I'm just waiting for the prices to keep going down. Joke's on them, though. I'm not buying anything.
We see the Heart of Findall. That's going to get him another life, which is crazy because the whole way to balance Iyslander is to put her at 36, and he's already fought back half of that. We don't have anything in the arsenal to freeze, so we're just going to flip and do Waning Moon for 3. I feel like Jamaica's going to say, yep, I've got one of my 39 blues, so let's just get rid of that damage.
So you played Imposing Visage, right? I forget what that card does. Is that the one where you can search up a card?
You go grab an aura for
grab
your
an
deck,
aura,
so
yeah,
you normally are doing this to find Showtime, which we see right there.
There you go.
Showtime will have everything on its card. Everything happens.
Yeah.
So we're going to draw a card off of it.
And
Next
it has
turn.
go again, right?
No.
Imposing Visage?
I believe this is a end of turn play. I don't know. I know Showstopper doesn't have going. It does look like
It looks
Imposing
like it has
Vision says
go
go
again.
again.
Yeah.
I'm more used to Showstopper.
That does not, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just setting it up. I love, I appreciate Bravo more and more the longer I've played Flesh and Blood. Like I said in last round, it's something I play just to, relax because it's not that it's not skill intensive. It's just that you have fewer choices most of the time, and it's a little bit easier just to kind of block up efficiently and put down some pretty good damage on people.
So this is going to be a Nothos for 6 because there's for sure enough in there to bump it up. I think kind of what I'm hoping as a Bravo player against Iyslander is I need to be doing more than 6 damage a turn. I need to hit my 8s, my 10s, because the Iyslander player will block with 2 cards from hand, blocking about 6 of your damage, but they're trying to set up the Frost Hex, the Chilling, the other one that takes cards from your hand.
Crippling Crush?
No, I'm doing, it's an ice card.
Oh,
that I
ice
can't
card,
remember.
sorry.
The Insidious Chill.
Insidious
I had to
Chill,
get
yeah.
there. Also, whenever you're just trying to avoid Wounded Bulls early on, but here's one right now. Immediately giving the equipment block makes sense because maybe there won't be too many attacks, or you'll see all 15 of them from Anthony right away. It is something where I have played this list, and it was like, it felt clunky to me because maybe I'm just a bad player and arsenaling the wrong things. But it does feel like you can draw this deck out of order, and maybe that's where Jamaica can fit some pummels in there to make his life even worse.
Yeah, definitely you can draw some difficult hands. I think Iyslander presents a lot of choices, and some of them are just bad.
Right.
And if you make those bad choices in the wrong moment, you can be punished for it. Whereas other decks, you have less, hard punishes for your, maybe less optimal decisions.
There's an Insidious Chill right away, so he's getting part of his combo. That was in reaction to Showtime popping off to give him a card. That's an interesting window that I have not seen before, but that makes sense.
Yeah, same. We'll see the same thing with Seismic Surge as well. When those pop at the beginning of the turn, it presents opportunity for Iyslander to do Iyslander things.
Okay. And you do want to, we got this. He doesn't have the Tunic in his sideboard. So this is kind of thing that I would think normally you would have the Tunic so you could respond to ice stuff. And anytime you use Tectonic, you give your opponent another time to put an ice, what is it called, Frostbite in between, which isn't great.
My guess is he's probably not going to be using Tectonic for its ability, probably just to block right now, just because you want to reduce the opportunities you give Iyslander to just hit you immediately at the beginning of your turn before you've got a chance to do anything.
Gotcha. So this card, one card for a blue, it's going to do so much, though, because we got the trigger on the Insidious Chill, which says go ahead and pay 2 or discard. What Bravo's going to be doing this whole time is paying, though. Yeah. He has the blues to get around this.
Absolutely. Just decks full of blues. And they're all pretty good at this point, which is why Guardian is just a solid choice, I think. There's, honestly, you have to, it's a hard choice to figure out your best blues. I mean, maybe it's kind of solved already, but there's so much available choices there that it can be pushed in a lot of different directions to figure out what your blues are in this deck, even though there's probably 40 of them. How many blues has he got?
39.
39, yeah. So
I think one thing too about these Chilling Ice Veins, it's presenting. This is 5 damage, so 2 of it's gonna get through. Anytime we have a spell, it's literally like only. Is he running the yellows? So he's got 5 cards that can't be blocked completely. So that's the chip damage that'll go along with the chip damage from the Wounded Bulls to inch Bravo closer to a kill turn.
All right, well, proving me wrong immediately by activating Tectonic Plating to make a Seismic Surge token, I still think that's kind of a dicey move. You're just presenting that opportunity for Iyslander, but if this is the kind of setup, deck that Frost Hex combo-y kind of thing that Anthony just did against Oldhim, which I would think that's kind of your default approach to Guardian, he has time, although he just has a little bit less time now. He's got the first Frost Hex out. And
he used that to fuse the Aether Ice Vein, so Jamaica knew that was there, but you can't really do much about it unless you have the pummel. Like, that's just not what was happening there. It's interesting, too, the Bravos, they don't complain about losing a Wounded Bull. They don't complain about losing the Scar for Scar. It is the combo that will kill the Bravos. We need to ban these cards that go together, but it's up to Anthony to put those 12 turns together of can he get 2 Frost Hexes and 2 Ice Vein, 2 Insidious Chills. I need Insidious Chill, Insidious Chill, Insidious Chill. I literally forgot that card 3 times because I think Chilling Ice Vein is just in my head so much right now.
Yeah. He's also got the Amulet of Ice. We saw Anthony last round use those very meticulously to strip out the Guardian's hand to get in the damage to get him in kill range. So he's got the tools to do it. Does he have the time is the big question here. He's at 28, so he's not too scared. You got to think that that's almost even, if not a little bit ahead based on the math of, doing the combo and stripping the cards and dealing, upwards of 10 to 15 damage. So he's feeling not too uncomfortable, but you always got to be worried when you're playing against a deck that can present a lot of damage and disruption. Although when it's just a hammer, you're not as worried, to be honest.
And I think something that's going on with the Tectonic Plating right now is I value the one-off, because whenever I do draw the Crippling Crush in my hand and I have 2 blues, I want to be able to play it immediately. Yeah. And that's an 11 damage that Iyslander will have to reset their hand. Will have to block probably 9 of it. And that's maybe something where if you can chain 2 of those turns together, get Anthony off of having a arsenal and something he's doing, then that's where you can kind of move your own game plan forward as Bravo and get those things where it's like, this is a snowball, but not a frostbite.
Nice. I think Jamaica just got caught out the turn before with the Insidious Chill and Aether Ice Vein hitting his Crippling Crush out of hand. And then, he was left with 2 Rouses, which is not what you want to see, as they are basically 0 attacks that cost 3 at that point. So just presenting the hammer, which is not going to be what he wants to see. And again, getting stripped of that Crippling Crush. So interesting to see the effects of Peak and, Chilling Ice Vein really kind of getting rid of these cards. Although I think I see a Terra Sunder in hand. So Jamaica's just going to add. Oh, nope. He's just going to. I guess I don't know how to play Bravo. That's fine. I would have thought you'd go for the Terra Sunder eventually, but
I think one thing that's interesting is both of our players just put a very powerful card on the bottom of their decks. So that's where the pitch deck will come back around of, can we get 10 more turns where Jamaica has a Crippling Crush on his side and Anthony has his Ice Eternal on his side, and who can get to their stack first, because both of those are game-winning plays from each player.
Yeah.
And that's probably, both of those people showed that face up, and that's, I think, the next level of, I want to be a player that takes down tournaments like this, what is that, a green light or a red light of like, oh crap, I need to be ready for my Crippling Crush before this Ice Eternal comes at me.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a signal, and it's really interesting that they pitched it basically at the same exact time. Bravo not having, the Crown of Seeds, he does not cycle through his deck as quickly as Oldhim can, although Oldhim doesn't play the Crown in this matchup. But I don't think Anthony doesn't have that many cards that draw him a card, although he does have the couple Arsenal, the cold snaps, and I think he's got the polar.
He's going to full
Polar
block here
Blast?
because he doesn't have a blue non-attack action.
Yeah, he's
So-
got 2 polar blasts, so he can draw cards just slightly faster than Jamaica, so he might be able to race him to his combo before that pivotal crippling crush could have an effect, but we'll see.
So both our players just traded damage back and forth of like, okay, let's go down together. And anytime you're going down together of like, I'll take 5, you take 6, that type of thing, I think that's kind of what Iyslander wants to do.
Yep.
Because once again, those pesky Stormstriders are grosser than you think. But this is a low impact turn, I would say, from Anthony of just a 4 with Go Again. I don't have an Arsenal card. So, yes, block some of this, but what do you have in your hand that now Jamaica is on point, or whatever that word is he's on the bubble? What is it in poker? Under the gun? I don't know. One of those things that makes me sound smart. It's like he's under the gun. It's his time to go. He took 1 damage there, and like he knows that he's not going to get. Yep. All this is happening quicker than I'm going to say it. Here's just a 9 damage attack that I know you can't do any Iyslander stuff before it happens.
Yep. Well, he did create a tectonic or a seismic surge token, so
Right.
he gave him that opportunity, but he had no Arsenal, so he knew nothing was coming
Right.
in at instant speed.
So this is kind of like Jamaica said, you gave me an opening. If he plays a blue attack here, it's so bad. If he swings a Nothos, it's all right. But the 9 damage attack is above that 6 damage break point. So Anthony's not going to fully block this, or he's going to have a very low power turn on his turn. So he's taking the 6. And
Taking
now
6, going to clap back and hopefully get his Arsenal going. It's so hard when you're playing Iyslander and you kind of fall out of the cycle of having something in Arsenal to play, because it's so important to your game plan to be able to chip that damage on both turns. And here we go, Fighting Spirit, giving him the +1 health. Another just like good card.
The Wounded Bull's in his hand too.
Nice.
So there won't be an ice play again. Jamaica's probably like, sure, I'll take 1. I'll go down to 27. But now this would be a good time to have a 4 cost attack with this seismic popping to flip over a blue, like a Mangle or something. Obviously, Mangle's not a card that goes in stuff. But Hammer is not amazing, but it's kind of just, here's what I have right now.
Yeah, might be a pummel in Arsenal, but even if it is, it's just damage. But yeah, that is not what Jamaica wanted to see when he's got a full grip of cards in hand.
Right.
But Bravo is always going to be patient. You're going to set up your tectonic or your seismic surge and wait for that window where you do draw something really powerful and disrupting.
Here's Wounded Bull. This
But
is
yeah,
going to bump to 8.
Anthony just getting the value out of these, powerful 3-costed cards. And being patient himself. He is probably a little bit behind in his combo. He's not seen another Frost Hex yet. He doesn't have any of the... I'm not sure if I would assume he runs amulets in this matchup as well, but
Oh, for sure.
don't know if I've seen one yet, so that could always be weird. Those can come up at the wrong time with like a, crippling crush, and it's just like all the cards you want to be able to play are in your hand at the moment. So that's the tough part of playing Iyslander. It is an efficient deck, but it can come out a little bit clunky, and navigating those troubled waters is the skill involved there.
I think there's something too about when you have a deck of 60, you got some energy cards, basically. You got some cards that are used for utility, and then you have your power, probably 25 to 30 cards. And I think right now both of our players are kind of cycling through some of their worst cards, just basically using them to power their weapons or block the weapon. And they're both trying to be the first one to have the card that has the better numbers to get incrementally ahead. Because I do think if Jamaica just swings a hammer 3 more times, then Anthony will find some Frost Hexes and some extra stuff where he needs to get going right now.
Yeah, so Cold Snap freezing the Arsenal here as Jamaica declines to pay. Just a good card, I think, Cold Snap in this deck. It draws you, it turns on Waning Moon, and when it does freeze a card, it's pretty sweet because decks that tend to arsenal cards, they tend to put important cards there.
Right.
So it's
If you
not
put
always used for that, but it is definitely impactful when it is.
and if you put Oasis in your arsenal because you're trying to get rid of Icelander's big spell, and they cold snap the time before, that is one of the most punishing things I've ever felt. Was I was playing Emperor on Dynasty Friday night because I got one out of my box. Cold snapped my Oasis. I was like, this is the worst thing of my life. This will probably be for 7 because there's no reason to really go again unless he wants to peak. But he's doing 5 because he's like,
he's got
Blake
2
said
cards.
something else.
Yeah. Jamaica didn't come at him with enough to do anything, so
I think there will be a peak after this.
yeah, it's just a great turn when you can do both. You're gonna get the block or get some damage and demand a card or the resources.
Because if you thought there was low impact turns before, a hammer for 4 might as well just say, all right, Iyslander gets full advantage back. I think that's what's really cool about Wizard versus... I've played a lot of Wizard versus Guardian, mostly as Guardian, as Bravo, like 15 months ago. And it is kind of like, you have an attack to take away half of a Wizard's life, but then they're going to just blow you up and behind. And I know that's kind of not the strategy right now for Iyslander, but it is an incremental, like, sometimes it's explosion turns in Flesh and Blood, but I think this is kind of the most like 50-50. I need to incrementally get ahead of you, and that's something that I miss about some of these heroes going to the more explosive turn thing.
Yeah, and I mean for Iyslander, it really just isn't part of the game plan to have explosive turns like that. It's always just outvaluing them on your turn and then disrupting them on their turn, and being able to do that against, and kind of in different ways too. Like it can be, same set of cards almost exactly, and then this Frost X combo comes in when you have the time to do it. I mean, really, it's all about having the time. The fast decks don't give you enough time to do it. Bravo can try to be fast, but just always can suffer from the fact that he's a big stompy character. So it's an interesting play you have to make.
I think that was interesting. I'm not quite sure when Anthony has an arsenal because he was going so quick, but he had a decision between a Frost Hex and a spell that does damage that wasn't ice. So I'm like, I know kind of when we're getting here, we kind of want to have Frost Hexes up to do the kill turn, but we're kind of at the point where as soon as you do a Frost Hex, it's so low impact because you're not going to Waning Moon behind it, where it's kind of too late to present Frost Hexes right now. So he's going to have to find the damage somewhere else.
It gets much more difficult to play that card the further you go into the game and the lower on life you get. Although in his last game, he was in a similar position. I still think he has he's ahead slightly, but if Bravo pulls into some powerful disruption, gets a pummel out there, it could be pretty devastating for Anthony. But I think he only really needs 2 Frost Hexes. I think he's got him down to 20 already. It doesn't seem like Jamaica's pitching to Arcane Barrier very much. Also,
2 block on a Scar for
nice.
Scar.
Double pummel block. You love to see that. And then the Scar for a Scar leading into another Scar for a Scar.
I think this is smart from Jamaica because there was nothing happening from that turn offensively. So it is kind of like when you're faced with 8 damage, block most of it. Do I put this card in my arsenal? Do I swing my hammer for 4? I think you always swing the hammer for 4.
I think he has a card in arsenal already.
That's black on black? Oh, yeah. There's a little bit of a color. Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
What do you think that is? Is that always red pummel?
It might be. Or it's like a crippling or something high impact attack action.
This is interesting. I wonder if he said, I'm going to move to end my turn because he doesn't want to swing a hammer and get blown up behind it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he did because he knew it was coming either way. Right. So he might as well hold on to it. Has the unmovable. Not great in this deck or in this matchup. I think, it's just a blue. I guess you could use it against their attacks, but that's kind of a risky move.
And that was interesting because that could have been a Frost Hex. And so Anthony is smarter because a Frost Hex on your opponent's turn is not high impact. There's not the 3 damage, but this did present like, I'm taking that card away from you, and who cares about a Frostbite if all you're going to do is swing 1 and Othos. There's another Insidious Chill up. Insidious Chill plus an Amulet of Ice is kind of like, all right, as soon as I get a Ice Eternal, don't get Bravo under 12. I know it's probably 8 with only one Frost Hex up.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got to get him down lower with the single Frost Hex. I mean, the 2 Insidious Chills and the Amulet of Ice can definitely help strip the cards. He might,
Right.
for him, he has a couple win conditions. It doesn't have to be straight OTK combo. It can be just strip all their cards, do a good amount of damage to get them low enough that Storm Striders can win you the game at the right moment. But he has flexibility. It's just a matter of how he navigates it.
This kind of feels, if you look at Blake's eyes through this, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a pummel behind this for 10. And Anthony's just blocking for 3, but he is kind of baiting that thing to happen, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think he had a defense reaction.
Oh, it's a sigil in Arsenal
sigil
that's been there
Arsenal.
forever.
Okay.
That's interesting for Jamaica. I think he lost health when he played sigil. Maybe that's not what was supposed to happen there. But.
So Pitch Stack in the chat saying, not sure I agree to keep the blue Ice Veins in deck against Bravo. I think you keep them in no matter what because it's a blue in Iyslander. And also you can play it at instant speed and it demands some kind of attention. Even if they block it with 3AB, like you still took one card of their hand, and it's a good fuse target as well if you've got your Insidious Chills out. So there's definitely value to be had there. It may be less impact than in other decks, but at the very least, it is a blue card that you can use to pitch and do all the things you do want to do normally.
I think Ice Vein is just so good where you're like, oh, I'm going to not play 3 of them. Like, I get that it's a specific matchup thing, but
I don't think you take that card.
Don't take good cards out of your
matchup.
deck.
Yeah.
Second sigil coming down, so now we're kind of realizing why Jamaica had such a low impact turn. Anytime you're playing sigil against Wizards, they're kind of like it just messes up a lot of the work the Iyslander has done.
Yeah, a lot of the planning, the math, it all changes instantly, which can be tough. But Anthony has quite the field of disruption ready to go. So he's really, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he uses this to really jump in and get through.
He's smiling as he puts
damage.
the third one down.
Wow, there you go. Was that 2 in one turn or 2 back to back?
It was gross.
Yeah, love it. How's Jamaica feel about it? He's feeling fine.
Well,
love that
Belting,
jacket, by the way.
That's the Jamaica special at the jacket. Could always tell where he was in San Jose because he had that going. We got a Zealous Belting. That's one of the few go again cards in Bravo. It's going to check your pitch zone to see if there's one with more attack. And that's what Cranial Crush does as a blue with your highest blue damage attack. Maybe maybe Macho Grande's up there too with that now too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Zealous Belting just a good card in Guardian to provide the ability to have 2 attacks in a turn or just bait out a block or a non-block to then pummel because it is a pummel target as well. So, I've seen a lot of people lately, Zealous Belting looks like they're probably going to swing the hammer, but instead they just pummel and that's the end of their turn. So the go again can be a bit of a red herring, I think.
And 5+6 is exactly what Bravo has to do. I know I'm broken record on this, but 6 damage is not enough. 11 is basically 2 rounds of 6 damage of Anthony has to block this. He can't, let me make my hand perfect of what I want to do on my turn. I think this basically requires, there's 6 damage coming in. He's already blocked 4 of the earlier 5. He's got Sink because he's that good. I think that's a Emeritus Scolding in his hand, right?
I didn't see. Pitch Stack saying Jamaica might have Sink Below an Arsenal, which if he does, this could be a world situation where if Anthony knows that, he's just not going to attack. But he did see a lot of his attacks through the first half of his deck, so he might not even have that many left. So unfortunately for Jamaica, that might just get stuck there for the rest of the turn, which will probably cost him the game if that's the case, because it's devastating to be Bravo and not have access to your arsenal.
No. I guess I will speak up. Ice Vein Blue, I know it's literally hindsight 40/70 right now, but it is getting the Insidious Chill off. Yeah. 2 things. You can't do that with other spells. You can't do that with, like, it is another target that does that. We're blowing up his hand. Like, look at all those cards in the pitch zone right now, and this is not good if you're trying to take away the final 13 of Icelander's health and you got 3 cards in the pitch zone already.
Yeah, right now deciding whether he blocks or loses more cards.
Because now this is Arsenal pass and hope my opponent doesn't blow me up, or swing a hammer for 4.
Yeah, he can't even Arsenal. He's still got that card in there, which, you know, very well could be
Sigil number 3?
I think chat's saying it might be Sink Below, and that's why it's been stuck there. So
I pretended that sandwich got my memory almost. So.
Can Anthony sniff that out? If he can, that is just brutal. As we saw at Worlds, where Michael Hamilton realized the Iceland player had Sink Below and Arsenal and just refused to attack for the rest of the game, just demolishing his chances as, you know, and reducing Icelander's full ability.
I think there's something where, okay, Anthony has seen the Heart of Final come around again. He doesn't have a card to shuffle his deck, so we know that he's seeing the beginning of the deck because that's the second time he's gained a health from that.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's something too. Is it worth the $400 card to put in my deck? Well, currently he's gained 2 health. He'd be at 11. That's always an interesting thing of, is it worth it or not? Takes 1 from the hammer here.
It was less than $400 before Michael Hamilton. So if you have a problem with that, send him a note on Twitter. Leave him alone. He's a nice guy.
He's doing his best. Here's a peek. Peek seems low impact. It's not. This is exactly how you get Bravo off of a card, to get Bravo off of a card on your own turn.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a card that he can fuse in his hand, so that won't happen next turn. But we are just kind of trying to make his stuff cost 1 more. And once again, the only thing you can really get out of this is maybe pitching 9 to Crippling Crush for 11 and hoping that the Icelander doesn't have a spell to blow you up.
Yeah. It's just good. Like I said earlier today, being able to have something to just pitch to keep your Channel Lake Frigid out there is valuable enough. And sometimes just asking for a card in exchange for a card is also enough, because the way you draw cards, it could be devastating. You know, either they have to pitch inefficiently and lose a blue, or they lose a, you know, really impactful red card as well.
He's going to Waning Moon. That way he gets to see, okay, I had a blue pummel. Maybe I was going to make my hammer 8 to just trip you down even further. He's got 2 floating, so if he does Waning Moon, that means 1 will get through. He doesn't have another card. No cards in hand, 2 resources is kind of like, is it worth using stuff in my hand to mess with him? Usually not until you have a kill turn. So I think that is where, if you're not playing 2 sigils, Jamaica would be, yes, he would be playing different cards and it would be completely different. It depends. But he would be at 13 health too. And that maybe is a good tech in Bravo of, I have to play sigils as soon as I get them in my hand, so I can stay out of this kill turn long enough to get the Icelander down there themselves.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because it extends the game but also prevents you, you know, from being proactive. So while you gain life, you're also, you know, muddling or like muddying up your aggressive game plan and disruption game plan, because you just have to play those, you know. And while they can mess up the wizard and I think catch people off guard or even tilt them slightly if they think they've got it, you know, their plan in the bag, it can be really difficult to use them efficiently in a way. It's like turn 1, it's like turn 0, turn 1 is when you want to see your sigil. Like immediately just gain life. You don't lose any momentum. But I think the later you see it in the game, almost the least impact it has, unless it's like the very last turn and they haven't seen a sigil yet, so they don't know it's coming to like prevent them from winning. Like, or that's usually,
or break frostbites. That's maybe a thing too. Sheesh.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
That's a thing where you got to have the blues behind it, but Bravo always does. So
yeah, that's fair. I don't know if we've seen him do that right now, but we haven't seen. Frostbite hasn't played a huge role.
No, he just put the 2 sigils back to back that one turn. All right, he took damage. He's taking all the hammer, which is kind of like, all right, shut up or put up time. Anthony has always putted up. He never shut it up.
He's got the Frostex in hand, so I'm curious if he's feeling the I think he also has Ice Eternal, so he feels probably pretty close to getting to his end game with the 3 amulets, Insidious Chill, and the Channel Lake Frigid still out there. He might have the opportunity.
So I think he could probably play the Frostex out on his turn.
Yep.
He's going to put Ice Eternal into his arsenal.
Yep.
He's going to save the blue Ice Bowl. And then he can Ice Bolt off for Stormstriders. He can Ice Eternal from hands. He can Waning Moon. And all of that could do a potential lot of damage with the second Frost. But he doesn't do any of that. He says, I'm going to mess up your next turn.
Yeah.
Get some cards out of your hands. Which is interesting. This is a new line of play that I'm maybe not as... I've not seen this 15 times before.
Yeah. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier. You can use kind of like a half combo to really just disrupt and demand a bunch of cards, and also push through some damage to get them lower in life, to get closer to that kill turn, because it isn't just a one note deck where all you do is OTK. You really are also looking to just gain the advantage of being able to strip all the cards, push through the damage with the Frost Hexes, and just steal all that momentum.
I think what's very interesting about this is these Frostbites do not break until the end of Jamaica's turn. So what he's doing now is fusing it with the Frost Hex. He'll be able to put that Frost Hex in play before they break and get the full 6 damage off of that with 2 Frost Hexes. I think the reason he did this on his turn is to keep the Channel Lake up.
Yep.
And it may be a full, I get to do whatever I want to my opponent. He draws the Ice Eternal immediately.
Yeah.
I think this is the Ice Eternal he pitched earlier. And this is something of, why did Anthony take so much damage and not do well afterwards with that turn? He's smarter than we are, and he just did a 2-turn combo of, I can kill my opponent with these 2 Ice Eternals back-to-back with the Frost Hex in between. It's very cool, because I have not done a play like this before, and I feel like this is where you have to bring Iyslander once people start to know, because 4 times 2 is 8. Jamaica's not going to have a way to pitch at all. So we could Waning Moon for 3, and then 8 damage from Frost Hex will be 11 and take him to 8.
Yeah.
Stormstriders is coming down because he wants all of it. No. What is he going to do with Stormstriders? Frosting is interesting.
Nice. Just wants to get another, so that's 2 extra damage on top of it being the 1 from Frosting.
So
Waning Moon
for 3.
And now he's coming in for 15. Look at that perfect math lining.
Is it 15 or just 10?
Oh, 10. Sorry. Yeah. So he's going to do 10. He's probably got another spell he's going to put in Arsenal and be able to kind of just wrap this game up. I believe
that is very.
I believe someone in the chat said Anthony's gonna lose, and I think you might have been a bit hasty in that.
Not Mega Monk.
In that declaration, but that's okay. Iyslander can look and feel like you're losing for a lot of the game, but you're actually ahead because of the fact that you're just going to do damage on their turn as well.
Trent's looking over. He's like, wait. What happened?
You just got fammed.
Oh, my goodness.
So, drawing back up.
He drew up, but he doesn't get to swing a hammer or anything. No, he does. Oh.
Yeah, that was Jamaica. That was Jamaica's turn. So on Anthony's turn, he drew back up. But now he's going to come in with Rouse the Ancients.
Rouse.
That's the double Rouse he pitched before, and probably the Crippling Crush he also pitched. Yeah, so coming in at the same time as his Ice Eternal. He knows there is. He's got a blue and a red in hand, so he can block 4. So if Anthony can do 9 damage,
this is going to be hard. I have not seen a Stormstriders for Frosting before, but Frosting did 1 and then added a Frostbite that did 2. So it was Stormstriders for 3 damage, which not my favorite thing, but it is wondering. I'm wondering if he's based on the cards that are coming next, I think I can get 5.
Yeah, it could have been a risky move right there to do that. It's hard to say.
7 plus 6 is not what you want to see under 10 damage when you don't have access to shoot him with Striders right away.
Yeah, he does have his gloves and his peak, so he can block 4 with equipment, which is pretty nice when you're down at these health levels. He's got a bunch of time, too, to take his time and think about it.
Meritus Scolding's the best blue spell he's got.
It's just going to demand a card and deal a damage.
Takes him to 4. I think another thing about that is we know there's a Crippling Crush in hand, so the 7 + 6 is no longer that. So it is just 7.
Yeah, 2 damage coming through. Yeah, that. Now he can block up Arsenal, a good spell, and probably go for the game.
Block that. As soon as that Ice Bolt goes into his Arsenal, that's fine. He's loving it.
Nice. So he's blocking 4. Or no, blocking 6.
So I'll take 1.
Brothers in Arms. What a great card in this deck.
It is something when I first saw that card, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool for drafts. But seeing it work really well in this deck is something where I like that card design. Seeing something like that in Outsiders would be cool. Of pay 1 to make your card better, I think is something that could be seen in the next couple sets where I'd be loving it every time.
They've done some of these interesting generic cards with these kind of almost innocuous feeling effects on them, but in the right deck, they can be so cool. And it's just really fun when someone figures that out and, it's like, I tend to have one resource that I could just use to gain 2 extra block for a card that, is a good resource card itself. And in a pinch can actually attack for 4 and not be terrible.
Right. I think what's interesting is Jamaica felt like he was going to be ahead here. But I think it's way easier for Anthony to do 2 before Jamaica does 6. Unless he's not going to draw into a 0 block from an Amulet anymore.
Yep.
That's gone. He's probably used most of his Wounded Bulls and Scar for Scar, so those are going to come around to mess up his math. And I think Anthony's smiling because it's like, okay, yes, sell a Spelting. I'll take care of that with this. We know he has an Ice Bolt in Arsenal, so as soon as Jamaica flips a blue to swing a Nothos, he'll die because Ice Bolt plus the Waning Moon
and
will be too much.
Yeah, I think he's got to think long and hard about this. It might be worthwhile to try to pass, but I think he's in a bad situation no matter what he decides to do.
Right. I think one thing to Anthony's credit, I think this is a hard game. I think he's playing his deck a way to, maybe you haven't seen this as an opponent who's playing an Iyslander. He is showing understanding, boom, that's game. There's no way you can block this because you only have 3 AB. And everything he did was calculated there of maybe there's a low power turn from Striders when you're supposed to do Striders as a really cool thing. But over those 3 turns, if you go back and look at it, I think that's a line of play that you should learn if you're an Iyslander player to throw your opponent off.
Yeah. I'm waiting for him to flip this Arsenal card over just to... it must be. We haven't seen him play a card from Arsenal, right? Like, it's got to be...
Right. And that's something where
reaction.
Sink Below, so good until it's not.
Yeah. It's a wild deck, to be honest. Like, Iyslander, it can flex the Wizard, it can flex the... Oh, wait, don't go yet. I want to see him flip the card!
Is he going to flip it?
I don't know. It's just there. Someone tell him to flip that card.
What's in your arsenal, Jamaica? Oh, there's the fist bump 6 minutes later.
Another fist bump. All right, I don't know if he's going to do it.
Frost
I'm going to wait
on
here,
your
though.
side.
They don't need to see my face. I want to see him flip that card over.
What is it?
It's the last card.
Oh,
it was
Sink
a single.
Below.
All right. Shout out to the pitch stack, I think, who called that. And also shout out to Mega Monk, not giving you any spice there. Just it's always good to support your friends. And great game there. Good game, Jamaica. Good game, Anthony.